And welcome into another episode of Tiger Territory, part of the Foul Territory Network, a Detroit Tigers podcast. I'm Kieran Steckley. With me, as always, is a man who's got grit, but he doesn't grit his teeth. He is Cody Stavenhagen. How you doing?
Oof, I grit my teeth bad, man, and the dentist tells me I got to get like a mouth guard, but whatever. I haven't been to the dentist in a while. That's a whole other conversation. Get the gritty Tigers with a series sweep against the Chicago White Sox, walk-off fashion on Sunday. Spencer Torkelson, of all people, with the walk-off hit. Pretty good vibes. Just like the Dodgers were really good, the White Sox are really bad. So those are like two series that somewhat appropriately have canceled each other out.
Cancels each other out, but also like if you're looking at those three games and the ones that were in the balance, and one of the things that I had talked about was like, you're thinking if you want to just go to the end of the season, how tight races are going to be, like you kind of hope those balls bounce your way. This was a game that the ball bounced your way. And I don't want to take anything away from working the walks there in the ninth and Torques hits. That's not what I'm trying to do here. But, the odds are the odds, Cody. Like the odds were, there's like 9% chance of winning the game going into the ninth inning. If you're a fan of win probability, which I'm a fan of looking at it. I'm not saying I'm a fan of it, but I do like looking at it because it is kind of fun. Even it was still only 50% chance when Torque was at the plate, if memory serves. But like, as with anything early in the season, what we're doing is we're watching, we're assessing, and we're trying to figure out if they have meaning. And on the surface, sweeping the White Sox doesn't have meaning. But like when you have Carpenter go off over the weekend and you have Torque, have like that was a 96 mile an hour fastball, low and
wow.
Yeah, it was middle, but it was middle in. That he sent down the line. So
he wasn't hitting anything 96 last year. He was fouling those pitches off or whiffing because he was late.
And that was his only hit of the game. So this is a guy who was 0 for 4, came up in a big spot and delivered. And so like, the person side of it, you feel great for Torque. We'll talk about him more later in the episode. But it's like these kinds of things. You're looking for things that are they sustainable? You're looking for sustainability. And that's a game that like all the elements are sustainability, like the preaching of dominating the strike zone. I don't know. How about a couple walks there to scratch in a run? Seems like dominating the strike zone. Grit, Sweeney going down the line. That's a grit element. And honestly, we can do this. We can do this right now, Cody, because I was prepared. I was prepared to be a little critical of Javier Baez in the sense that like it just when I say looking for things, I just wasn't seeing those things, right? Mm-hmm. And I had like my notes and stuff that I'm preparing for this podcast, and then Javier goes out and not Javier, Javi goes out and has himself a 3-hit ball game, makes a fine tag, like a classic Javi tag on a stolen base attempt. And has himself even played some center field. Nothing happened, but he played center field, like has himself like a ball game. So I'm not going to even like, this is not going to be a critical moment for Javier Baez. Chances are there will be time for that. But this was a day that like the Tigers like flat out do not win this game without Javier Baez. So like, I think him having a productive day is worth just saying, you know what? Javi for a day, as we say.
I hope someone told Javi, like, this is the model for you to be productive, for you to be contributing to this team. I know no one wants to hear nice things about Javi Baez. I'm not taking today as some referendum that, like, he's back as an important member of the Tigers. But if this relationship is at all going to be sustainable, if his spot on the team is at all going to be workable, he has to do things like this. We're already seeing he's not a true everyday player anymore. He is not this team's everyday shortstop. He actually seems to have handled that okay. And then he comes out on a day like today, like you just said, 3 hits, a stellar play in the field, got the Tigers an extra 90 feet on the bases, tagging up on a fly ball to left. Like Javi has these good instincts, and although he's prone to some boneheaded mistakes, he does a lot of little things right. He has a supreme feel for the game. There's some players on this team who don't have a great feel for the game. Javier Baez has a feel for the game. Then he's playing center field. If he can be versatile and if he can do little things, and maybe if you don't have to station him in with a 6 by his name every single day, maybe this provides some kind of roadmap for like how you can keep carrying Javi on the roster, if that makes any sense. Like, again, I'm not trying to say this is some proclamation, but today was a good day for Javi, and I hope we see a little bit more of that.
Yeah, because like those over the course, like it feels like we're like kind of talking ourselves into like a bad situation. It is a bad situation. Like we're not gonna like avoid like acknowledging that. Like per dollar, you're not getting a whole lot of production. All right, so we all understand that. But as this team is constructed, as like the reality of the situation exists that he is going to be on this team, you need him to have games like today. Because one of the things that happened this week, I can't remember the game, but you know, listening to Dan and Bobby talk on the radio, and they're like, you know, if he's gonna be in the lineup, like specifically against like lefties, like he just can't miss hanging breaking balls.
Yeah.
You know, like he just can't miss middle fastballs. Like you're going to be able to quote unquote live with Javi if he's going to take advantage of those mistakes. And he wasn't. But you look at the numbers overall now for him, and it's like, okay, like without again making any sort of proclamation, like he is technically batting .333 right now. So
I'd like to see him drive the ball a little bit, Kieran.
Sure.
I'd like to see him really drive the ball with authority. I don't know that's coming back.
And again, like maybe he's just an old-time ball player in every sense of the word, is that he reaches this age plateau and it just kind of craters a little bit. But today is a day that like you would like to have, I don't know, over the course of the season, 15, 20, if, like you kind of feel good about the realistic chances of the team over the, like, you know, making the postseason, winning division. If you get
what this was, Kieran, was it was almost old school Javi. Like there wasn't the homers or anything crazy like we maybe used to see. But I remember when they signed Javi, talking to someone in the industry, and they were like, you know, he's incredibly frustrating, but there's going to be one game a week he wins you single-handedly. A little stretch to say this was single-handedly, but Javier Baez was a major player in today's win.
For sure. And we're going to talk about his counterpart at shortstop here shortly, right after this break.
Take me out to my TV, a FanDuel Sports Network. Yeah. Watch me some dingers and RBIs. I'm just glad they have my local team live, for it's root for the Tigers on FanDuel Sports Network. Tigers games, announcers, and more Tigers games. Get on the chain, they have the Tigers. Stream now.
So, as I began this episode talking about looking for things that are sustainable, trends, and like, do my eyes kind of match up with stats here? Like this one, I don't know if it's sustainable, and it did take me a little bit by surprise initially, but then you think about it, you're like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. I went and looked at, this is entering Sunday. I went and looked at the team's WAR leaders. Obviously, it's quite early for WAR, but I was like, I just wanted to look at it. All right, the stats there, I wanted to look at it. And number one on this team in WAR is Riley Green. You know, kind of checks out. Number two on this team is one Trey Sweeney.
Would not have guessed that. Would not have guessed it.
So the whole Trey Sweeney thing, like, we didn't really know how to grasp it. Like, I would say this entire calendar year, Cody, because we were like, well, you know, like, it was a fun moment, but it's not like he did anything at the plate that you were going to, like, you know, write home about. And does the best construction, when you're going over these various moves that the Tigers can make, is the best construction of this team, like Sweeney. And then even in spring training, we weren't really sure. You know, sure enough, he makes the team. Obviously, he is your shortstop. And I'm here to tell you that, like, he's coming out and popping. He's popping a little bit now that I kind of like go back and think like he's played some tremendous defense. He's had some, he's had what was it, 3 or 4 extra base hits, and including a triple, almost another triple, had a home run. He is quite valuable to the Tigers right now. I'm just going to list off again. It's all very early. We all understand. I'm just going to list off some stuff from his Baseball Savant page. Fielding run value, 95 percentile. Range, 97 percentile. All right, well, okay, we get it. He can field a little bit. At the plate, bat speed, 75 percentile. Square up percentage, 55 percentile. I know 55 is not great, but he's like, you look at some other guys that you think would be better than that, they're not. He's essentially middle of the road in a lot of these offensive categories with stellar defense. You can kind of win with the shortstop is going to be middle of the road in a lot of offensive categories with stellar defense. And that's not to say anything of his sprint speed, which is in the 85 percentile. We saw that in the 9th inning today. So I just figure I we don't talk a lot of Trey Sweeney. I think it's because we don't know really how to talk about Trey Sweeney. But I'm here to tell you he deserves to be talked about. So here we are talking about Trey Sweeney.
Yeah, he's second on the team in WAR because he's playing plus defense at shortstop with an 800 OPS. So that checks out, even though you kind of have to look at those numbers to appreciate it. Again, incredibly early in the season, there's a part of me that's still worried about Trey Sweeney. We saw some at-bats where he has looked a little bit overmatched, but I've also been impressed. He's gone to the plate with a pretty good plan, as have a lot of these guys, and that might be worth talking about more later. He's held his own against lefties. Oddly enough, he's actually hit lefties better than he has righties in his time in the major leagues, and that wasn't necessarily his minor league track record. Been really impressed with how he's standing in against some left-handed pitching. There's some swing and miss, but we've been reminded that there's some pop in his bat. That's one thing the Tigers liked when they acquired him. They thought he could hit for a little bit of power. You don't have to hit for a lot of power at shortstop. If you have a little bit of power, that can be an advantage. And then in the field, man, he's pretty clean, and I kind of have always thought that. Was still curious, all right, he played well in a smaller sample last year. Can we call him a plus defensive shortstop? And we need to see more still before we can be confident in that label, but he's playing very good defense right now at the beginning of the season. The 9 games in, that's my assessment of Trey Sweeney. He's having a nice start to the year.
Yeah, and again, it's all we all understand the sample size and the caveat of it, but we can only do with what's in front of us. And last season, he was worth 0.7 WAR. All right, for the Tigers. Right now, he's at 0.5. That's going to change in one direction or another, but probably both throughout the season. That's okay. But he's put together a really nice start to the year, and like I said, I just think it's worth mentioning. And sometimes as I try to reflect on some bias isn't the right word, but just sort of check my gut a little bit sometimes, and it's he was a first round pick. I have to remind myself of that. He was a first round pick. It's not like Sweeney as a prospect came out of nowhere. He was a first round pick in 2021. So it's not nothing. All right. So I think.
Kieran, are you worried about Andy Ibanez at all?
I am worried about Andy Ibanez. That's I wasn't prepared to talk about that today, but I can assure you that the brain biscuits are turning regarding the Andy Ibanez experience. And I'll tell you why I didn't want to talk about it today. I didn't want to talk about it today because he had such a great day in the field on Saturday. So that's my inside baseball right there. I was maybe not the right time. But am I going through
I think it's worth being on the front end of a little bit because he struggled for the duration of the second half last year. Mm-hmm. And we all know how, he's here to hit left-handed pitching. He's 0 for 10 against lefties. He hasn't necessarily looked good. He has looked good at third base, which second base customarily was his better position. I've been impressed with him at third dating back to spring, but he's not hitting lefties. He's playing against righties, and we know that's not a good matchup. I was glad, he took a huge walk in the ninth that allowed the Tigers set up Torque and allowed the Tigers to win that game. Kind of the problem that probably led to his demise in the second half last year was he got real jumpy. He got real aggressive. He wasn't seeing many pitches. So to even stay calm, even if he wasn't really facing a premium strike thrower, was encouraging. But we got to see some Andy hits against lefties soon, or things could get kind of awkward.
I can tell you with 100% certainty that the scenarios, all of them, are on my radar and on my brain. So I'm glad that you brought it up because it makes me feel like I'm not crazy. But yes, the Andy Ibanez part of it, I am watching closely. I'll say that. And we haven't learned that much about this team, Cody, but we've learned some things, and we will get to those things that we think we've learned after a message from our sponsors.
AJ, it is time for people to get some new clubs, and to do that, they need to go to their local PXG for a fitting, right?
No doubt. I was there today. I've been there before. Last time I was there, they gave me this killer gap wedge. Look at that sweet spot, Scott. It is worn out. That is right in the sweet spot right there. So I went and got new clubs today, new irons. But more importantly, I got this bad boy. I got me a new putter. This is my old putter. It's on order. Yes, that's my putter cover. PXG Mustang putter. Now I'm going to the Allen putter. They talked me into it because I was draining some putts today. Bob, the guy who helped me out, he helped me with my irons. He got them teed up perfectly. But then we went to the putting green. I was draining them putts because that's the most important part of golf.
PXG fittings are fun. Schedule your fitting today. As you can hear from AJ, for a limited time, you could save up to 20% on your entire order. Head over to pxg.com/foul. That's pxg.com/foul to save up to 20% on your entire order. pxg.com/FOUL. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
All right. So as we talked about, it's only 9 games, right? But the Tigers are division leading Tigers right now. And so we gotta assess why. We gotta figure out what we learned, because we spent all spring training theorizing about this and speculating about that, and knowing that there was only going to be one way to tell if we were right, wrong, or indifferent, and that was going to be regular season. Now that we have had a week plus of games, let's see. Let's just a little benchmark, Cody, especially with the Yankees coming to town. Let's assess what we learned, and I think we got to start with the hero of Sunday, and that's Spencer Torkelson. One of the most overwrought things, and this is not a baseball exclusive thing, but overwrought things in an offseason is something about working hard and adjustments, and whatever that might be. That was the selling point for Torque this offseason. It started with the Scott Harris quote after the Torres signing, where it's like, I talked to Torque, he's working, he wanted to tell me how hard he's working. It's like, okay, cool, he works hard. That's awesome. Well, I'm here to tell you, it turns out it was awesome. It turns out that the swing change and adjustment is real. He's got a 1.57 OPS right now, 324, batting average. He's got the couple home runs. He is the middle of your lineup, Cody. Spencer Torkelson, this early in the year, is a bat that you are relying on and has already played hero one time this season. So I what did we learn? We learned that this Torque thing, as of now, April 6th, is real. Like the adjustment is real, and there's nothing that we can say right now that says otherwise.
Yeah, all we can really go on is what we're seeing. And I guess 1,400 other data points then that's what still has me scared. But what we are seeing right now, I think Dan and Bobby said this on the radio, can he keep doing this? Well, if he keeps swinging and making swing decisions like he is now, yes, he can keep doing this. Someone said, I need to issue a mea culpa if I'm going to get on the Spencer Torkelson bandwagon. Maybe that's fair. I know I've been critical at Torque at times. I've also talked about how hard it's been with Torque because he's a good guy and the type of player you want to root for. And it's easy to ride that roller coaster, and we're still on that ride, baby. I said I didn't think Spencer Torkelson had a chance to make the roster unless he made serious adjustments. There were injuries, and he had the ability to play a position other than first base and DH. Well, Spencer Torkelson has made other adjustments. There were injuries that helped him guarantee a spot on the roster. And although we have not yet seen him play in the outfield, the Tigers did add that to his skill set. So he has checked those boxes, and that's why he's on this team, and the adjustments at the plate are why he is playing well right now. Really is kind of a game changer, because what do you need? You need a middle-of-the-order right-handed bat, and I've probably said this before too, but right now it looks like you have one, and it's the guy that almost got passed over. This is a funny sport, man. It is just funny how things work sometimes. And yes, we'll check back on this in May and June and July and August and September. But one thing that also stood out to me today when Tork hit the walk-off double, like his teammates seemed so happy, not just to win, but they seemed happy for Tork. Like the hugs and the back slaps he were getting, you could tell that I think that they are rooting for this guy as well.
Yeah, and the Riley Green quote, it always comes back. Tork breaks. Like Riley Green never never lost confidence in Tork, and I don't know what the numbers say defensively for him, but he is the bailout. He already has been the bailout a couple times, playing first base.
And that's kind of a great point. I don't know he looks so much better defensively.
And we talked about the double play, after Friday, and I don't know, man. I know eventually there's gonna have to be some shuffling. You're gonna have to play Colt Keith at first base and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. So I'm not living in delusion right now. But at the same time, some of those plays we saw this weekend, how confident are you Colt's making them?
I don't think he turns that double play. It definitely doesn't look as pretty if he does.
And we don't know his scoop capability. We just don't know.
And we do know that is Tork's one kind of calling card on defense.
Yeah, so worth mentioning, I would say. All right, I had Baez adjustments didn't work. We're not going to talk about that now because we did today. So kudos to Javier. I would say another thing we learned, Cody. Choices validated by the front office in terms of the pitcher selection, I should say. Casey Mize, again, sample size, we all understand. Casey Mize looked awesome, all right? And Maeda makes you think, well, I'm glad he's not starting. Kent
has gone back to not holding his velocity.
Yeah, so that's something, and then they just kept adding to the bullpen in ways that I think even though you understood it, you're like, did you really need to?
Yeah, right. That's how I felt about Brebbia. What I said, I was like, I've gotten to a point where I just trust the Tigers when they acquire a pitcher. So I didn't necessarily think it was a bad signing. It was I don't quite know if there's actually upside here. And do you need him when you could have had Matt Manning in your bullpen? I think I'd rather have John Brebbia right now. So, Tigers front office got it right, it looks like.
About that bullpen, though, and again, there's games happening as I'm doing these stats. So they're not all there's a chance that something could have changed or whatever. But they lead baseball, the bullpen specifically, leads baseball in WHIP and fourth in opponent's batting average. All of baseball.
Wow.
So
that's with Bo Brisky not necessarily throwing all that well right now.
Sure, and again, that's including the Maeda experience. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think pitching choices has been validated, and just for the record, there was not a choice that Maeda was going to be on this roster. That choice was made 18 months ago. So yeah, we're not including the fact. Right, you know what I mean? Right. So
yeah, we're going to be real. We're going to be adults about that one.
Yes.
Okay, I want to talk about the plans at the plate, though.
Okay.
This is just it's kind of a hard thing to quantify, but the numbers entering Sunday's game, the Tigers were seeing 25 pitches on average in the first inning. That was best in baseball. They had scored, I believe, 13 runs in the first inning. That was the best in baseball. They didn't necessarily jump on Martin Perez, as well as they had some other starters, and Perez pitches a contact. But there is something has been going on, I think, since last September, last August, where Tigers hitters are taking the hitters meetings into the game better. You can see it's not just good at bats. You can usually see some sort of theme in their approach. And AJ Hinch often says, like, game plans aren't team-wide, they're individualized. Of course, that makes complete sense. But usually there's some theme against the opposing pitcher, whether it's as simple as we're going to make this guy work, or we're going to be aggressive, or we're not going to swing at a slider and we're going to jump on fastballs. I just feel like you can see these things more tangibly, especially early in games, than you really have been for the duration of my time covering the Tigers. So I kind of asked AJ about that. I asked Kerry Carpenter. Kerry probably got it right. He just kind of credited that to experience. Get some experience, you get some confidence. It's a little easier to stick to your plan rather than coming out of your plan. And it seems like the Tigers and their coaching staff must be doing a good job of presenting hitters with the right information and communicating it well, because it just sticks out to me. This still isn't a murderer's row lineup, even though they're doing great statistically right now. But it seems like a lineup that has a more calculated plate approach, and that has been leading to good results so far.
So yeah, like one of the things I'm kind of waiting on to like as much as we talk about being prisoner moments, all this stuff, I do want to give more time to some of the stuff like first pitch attacking, and some of those metrics. Like, it's fun, you know, and when Dan and Bobby talk about them, and I'm sure Jason and Andy talk about them too, but I'm listening to the radio. Like it's all fun and good. It's really interesting, but I just don't know yet. But again, you have my attention on that kind of stuff, because one of those like baseball cliches, like your first pitch is like you forget might be your best pitch. Like, what if that's like a trend that's kind of coming back? You know, I mean, like, it's just like a million things that could be. So I am looking at that as well. But you know, this is an appropriate thing to talk about today. The gritty tag thing, big part of that was the base running. Well, like running is still in style. That's another thing that I believe we have learned, is that, you know, is this something that's really going to carry over? And we've seen the downside to that a couple times. But you talked about Javi taking, you know, an extra 90 feet. Like, that wasn't no gimme, right? And so, like, we've seen the Joey Cora, like Joey Cora doesn't have any other way. Riley Green almost like went too aggressively there over the week.
That was hilarious, right? So I'm glad I looked. I normally don't even look. I'm just so used to going.
That's good. But it's in it, like, that's still part of this team. That's still something that they view as a way.
It has carried over.
It is carried over, and it's still going to be a way they view to, like, get wins, right? To get runs, to get wins. And so we talk about how cool this offense, you know, is right now, relatively speaking, what it could be with some health, you know, that comes back. Like, I think through it all, it's going to be the base running aggressiveness is going to be there. Because right now, I don't know if I could say, like, the defense is 100% the same to previous, but I can say that the base running is the same. Speaking of defense and base running and hitting, Ryan Kreidler. Ryan Kreidler, this is not me trying to be mean, but Ryan Kreidler is Ryan Kreidler. I think that's something we learned. I don't think we've seen any sort of like, I wonder if there's like something there. You know, he did have that one today that, like, you know, from the TV broadcast, you thought, oh, you know, I don't know how it looked like, you know, live in person. It was a nearly 103 exit velo, but a little bit up on the angle, 39 degrees. You wanted that for him, because you wanted him to be able to do a little bit something offensively every time, to justifies the wrong word, but to give it a little bit more credence to the fact that he's going to be spending, as of now, a decent amount of time in center field. I think we kind of have a good idea of Ryan Kreidler, and that's somebody that can be useful in certain areas, but I don't know if you're asking for a whole lot. So that's my point on that.
Yeah, it's tough, but we knew the bat was a concern. We knew the bat was a question. Right now, the bat is a concern, and I think there's a real argument to, like, is the defense good enough to make up for it? I guess that leads to the natural question. I've heard people asking it, like, who goes down when Gleyber Torres is back? I feel like I've covered baseball long enough to like I never put too much stake into those questions, as you guys probably know, because like, are we really just assuming Glaber's going to be back right when that 10-day mark is over? Even though talked to Glaber recently, seems like he's doing well.
He wants to be.
Said of course he wants to be, but he's going to probably need a rehab game or two, and then like we'll see. Is everyone else going to be healthy by then? Will someone be a glaring candidate to go down? I would feel like Kreidler's the most glaring candidate to go down right now, but then it's still like, well, but they chose him for his defense. But, bruh, you can't send down Jahan. I mean, Jahan has done nothing but show you this is why I should have been on the team from day one. And then it's like, statistically, Margot's actually been helpful, but he's not necessarily playing that much. How does he fit and function on the roster? If Glaber is back shortly and if everyone else is healthy, it will be a very interesting decision.
So that leads right into the next thing that we learned is that Jahan is walk god. Like, and it's not necessarily that he's the best, at drawing walks or he's been burned a couple times, like thinking that he got the fourth ball there. But the fact that this guy has the walk equivalent of a bat flip in his arsenal, it's a walk god thing. Like Jahan's walk god. It's entertaining as hell to see ball four and then drop the bat, and it's like one motion as if he practiced to like take off the pads, and like it's perfect. It actually is like fun to watch. Like it is fun to watch him walk. So like him at the front of the lineup, he had this hit on Saturday to get things going. Like it pains me to think like you can't.
No,
can you?
You just can't. No, I would be very critical with it. I mean, he's hitting leadoff for you, and he is bringing impact to the game. I guess if you send down Kreidler, you're gonna have to play Jahan in the field a little bit more, and we would have to see how that goes. But man, it's fun to watch this guy take his at bats. You mentioned the bat flip. Remember when Casey Mize bat flipped after a walk in like 2021?
Yeah.
That was legendary. Someone brought that up to me. I had like forgotten about it. I wish we had that video uploaded. We should play it. You guys should go watch it. That's really how it's done right there. But Jahan, yeah, I don't have much more to say other than he's not a prototypical leadoff hitter, but he's a very modern leadoff hitter. This guy works good at bats, takes his walks. We know he has power. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing a ball or two leave the yard shortly. I just have a lot of very good things to say about Justin Henry Malloy, and I think the whole lineup looks better with him in it.
Agree completely. All right, let's go to our FanDuel Sports Network player spotlight. I feel like we talked a lot about this roster, Cody, and we haven't gotten to this guy yet. We mentioned him a little bit, but Colt Keith. Colt Keith is somebody that I'm watching because it's quite the start to the season. It's
fascinating.
Fascinating. Like he leads the American League in walks, Cody. He has 12. He got another one today. All right. He leads the American League in walks, but he's only got 4 hits. And he is not getting great exit velo if you look at his baseball savant page. He is not having good bat speed. His whiff rate is not great. Square up rate, not great. Like he's actually kind of across the board bad offensively right now, other than obviously the getting on base aspect of walking. Fielding, very mediocre. But again, this is a guy that thought he was going to be playing first base. And as of this, first part of the year, he's playing a lot of second base. We saw it last year, so there's no reason to like doubt Colt Keith. But the point is that I think this lineup can be carried for stretches by Kerry Carpenter and Riley Green. And right now we just kind of have to put like Torkelson in there to some extent. But you're going to need Colt Keith to be the hitter that he showed last season and that his entire professional career has been hyped about. And I'm sure it will happen, but that's why it's the player spotlight, because I want to see it happen sooner rather than later, because he's not in any danger, but it's going to look bad to keep trotting him out there at a certain point when all these other guys are producing and maybe a producer is getting sent down, if that makes sense. I'm not calling for anything. I'm just saying, like, it's gonna be a weird.
Colt Keith is not in any
Yes.
danger. He
Yes.
has a 457 one base percentage. Of course, he's not hitting the ball very well. When you say he doesn't get exit velo, I saw him hit one that left the bat at 108 just 2 days ago. So like it's
His
in
average
there.
is 78. So
He's hit a lot of balls that were not well hit, and I think he's battling that right now. I think obviously entering the year, hitting for a little more power, getting the ball in the air, getting a little more exit velo was a focus for him. It almost seems like my operating theory is that he has tried so hard to improve in those aspects that it's forsaken a little bit of the things that makes him a very good hitter, which is making good hard contact, which is being able to handle multiple pitches and use the whole field. He just seems very out of sorts, as we've talked about. Credit to him for still being able to take walks and not get overly jumpy. But the bat speed metric does concern me because it's gone down from last year. His average bat speed last season was 71.3 miles per hour, and this season right now it's 69 miles per hour. I don't know why the guy's bat speed has declined.
Feels like a lack of cohesiveness.
Cohesion,
and maybe like probably a little bit unsure. You know what I mean? Like it's just like maybe like an overthinking element. It could be anything. But again, this is not a panic Colt Keith player spotlight. This is not a we have a conversation Colt Keith player spotlight.
No.
This is it's gonna have to happen. The best version of this team has Colt Keith mashing. All right, so like that's and I'm looking to see it. So that's why Colt Keith is our FanDuel Sports Network player spotlight. You can use code baseball30 when you go to FanDuelSportsNetwork.com/packages to enjoy an extended free trial. All right, Cody, that was a lot of fun. I feel like we did learn a lot. I feel like we've learned a lot.
We didn't even talk about Jackson Jobe.
We didn't even talk about Jackson Jobe. And because I didn't really have anything new to say, but he looks like I'm going to credit Mark Gorash. He had a good tweet about it earlier. He said he's got elite major league stuff with like AAA. I'm going to misquote him, but AAA command, I think is what he said. So if I'm wrong, I'm
Basically
sorry.
Execution,
something like that. And he goes, that's why he's here talking about in Detroit. And that is also true. So that's kind of how that would be how I feel about one Jackson Jobe. Good on the Tigers to be able to, again, scrap together a win when your starting pitcher hasn't had it. And honestly, that's something we don't have to spend a lot of time on. We've gone long here, but like, it's not like they've gotten elite starting pitching this year, the Tigers, in this 5-4 start, like overall.
Yeah,
like,
kind of
gotten some pretty good, but it's not like, we'll see if we
haven't got peak Scooble yet. Actually, Flaherty's been very good, even if the stuff hasn't been quite good. Reese hasn't quite clicked like as much as you would want. We're still waiting on Casey Mize start number 2. So that's a great point. What was expected to be the strength of the team has been more pretty good, kind of good. So.
They have not ridden starting pitching to a 5-4 start, as I think a good way to say. All right. That was a lot of fun. You guys can hit us up on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Cody Stavenhagen. I'm at Kieran _Steckley. Pod pages at Tiger Territory _. What have you learned? Tell us what you've learned and see if it aligns with what we just talked about, or if there's something that we didn't think of that you got. We'd love to hear from you guys. Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Instagram, like, subscribe. You guys know the drill. 5-star review if you feel so inclined. So appreciate you guys taking some time with us today. So for Cody Stavenhagen, I'm Kieran Steckley. Everybody have a great day.